The Galactic Dominion had seen countless battles, but this one was different. For the first time in 1,000 years, a species had refused to surrender. The Dominion had conquered hundreds of worlds, crushed empires, and wiped civilizations from existence with overwhelming force. Their war fleets numbered in the millions, their technology was centuries ahead of most. No one resisted for long. But then came humanity. When the Dominion arrived at the edge of human space, they sent their usual ultimatum: surrender and become a vassal, or face annihilation. Most species, faced with the might of the Dominion, gave in immediately. The humans didn't. The response was strange: no desperate negotiations, no cries for mercy. Just a single transmission. That was it. No threats, no pleading. Just acknowledgement. The Dominion's War Council laughed. Another primitive race, too proud to understand their place. The invasion fleet, 50,000 strong, moved forward, expecting an easy conquest. They reached the first human colony and encountered resistance: primitive railguns, nuclear warheads. Nothing that could stop them. The colony fell in hours. The second colony took longer, days instead of hours. The humans fought harder than expected. Their weapons hit harder than they should have. By the time the Dominion reached Earth, they expected to face a desperate, broken species. Instead, Earth's defenses were ready. And then, the humans sent just one ship. At first, the Dominion thought it was a mistake. A single vessel, moving toward the heart of their fleet. It barely registered against their sensors, its power output laughable compared to their dreadnoughts. Admiral Zral watched the tactical display, amused. They think one ship will save them? His officers chuckled. The Dominion fleet numbered in the tens of thousands. The human ship was a mere speck in comparison. Then the speck moved. It didn't engage in standard attack patterns. It didn't try to dodge, run, or negotiate. It accelerated straight toward the Dominion flagship. At first, they thought it was a ramming attempt, primitive, desperate. But then, the Dominion's shields flickered. Systems shut down. Then the real horror began. The ship wasn't firing weapons. It was the weapon. Admiral Zral barely had time to react before his fleet's comms were flooded with screaming. Something was happening. Ships were going dark. Crews were being erased, not killed, simply gone. And the human ship kept moving, cutting through the fleet like a knife through flesh. The Dominion had sent 50,000 ships. And in minutes, only silence remained. The lone human ship sent one final message before disappearing from sensors. The war was over. Panic spread through the Dominion's high command. 50,000 ships, gone. Not destroyed in battle, not crippled in some last stand. Gone. Sensors had recorded no debris, no wreckage. Nothing but an empty void where the fleet had once been. The Dominion's paranoia spread like wildfire. Entire fleets were recalled from the outer systems. Warships were fortified. Research stations worked around the clock, desperately trying to decipher what had happened. But no matter how much they analyzed the data, no answer made sense. The humans had erased 50,000 ships without a trace. And now, they were watching. For the first time in its 1,000-year reign, the Dominion was afraid. On the Dominion's most classified research world, Zyros 9, the brightest minds worked to unravel the mystery of the human ship. Every scrap of sensor data, every intercepted transmission, every theoretical analysis was examined. One thing became clear. The ship had not used conventional weaponry. No energy discharges, no projectile impacts, nothing detectable. The only clue was the distortion seen in the footage. It wasn't a weapon, whispered Dr. Kalter, one of the leading Dominion scientists. His tendrils twitched nervously as he stared at the screen. It was something else. Something more, fundamental. Explain, barked General Vorin, standing impatiently behind him. Kalter hesitated before continuing. Our ships didn't explode. They didn't suffer structural failure. They just stopped existing. As if reality itself rewrote itself to remove them. Vorin scoffed. Impossible. That defies every known law of physics. Kalter turned slowly, his eyes dark. Then perhaps we must accept that the humans know laws we do not. The word sent a chill through the room. For centuries, the Dominion had believed itself to be the pinnacle of intelligence, the masters of the galaxy. But what if the humans weren't just another upstart species? What if they were something else? While scientists scrambled for answers, the Dominion's intelligence network focused on a more pressing mission, locating the humans' homeworld. They already knew of Earth. It was classified as a Category 3 civilization, advanced, but not yet galactic tier. Their technology was nowhere near Dominion standards. They had no known superweapons, no reality-bending ships, nothing capable of what had happened. So where had that one ship come from? Agents scoured every hidden relay, decrypted every human transmission, infiltrated their networks, and found nothing. No mention of an experimental warship. No evidence of unknown weapons. No signs that humanity even knew what had happened. Their news networks continued as usual. Their military forces remained in standard positions. Their civilian population lived in ignorant bliss. It was as if humanity itself had no idea what had occurred. But if they weren't responsible, then who was? As the Dominion grappled with their fears, another transmission arrived. Unlike the first, this one came from a specific location, the very edge of Dominion space. The message was simple. One ship was enough. Do not make us send another. The message included coordinates. It was a challenge. A test of Dominion pride. The Emperor hesitated. His warlords wanted vengeance. His strategists begged for caution. In the end, he made a decision. They would send a fleet. Not a massive armada this time, just 1,000 ships. A warning. A show of strength. And if the humans refused to explain their actions, the fleet would make them. Underscore 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 underscore. The ships departed within the hour, traveling through warp space toward the given coordinates. Every soldier, every officer, every commander on board knew they were walking into the unknown. But none of them knew that they would never be seen again. Underscore 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 underscore. The fleet arrived at the designated coordinates, a patch of empty space at the farthest edge of Dominion-controlled territory. No planets, no moons, no stations. Just the abyss of the void. It was a trap. But for whom? Admiral Jarth Kren, commanding the 1,000-ship fleet, stared at the tactical display. No enemy ships. No anomalies. Nothing. And yet, unease crawled up his spine. One ship was enough. Do not make us send another. The words echoed in his mind. He had dismissed them as psychological warfare. Now, as the silence stretched before him, he wasn't so sure. Full scan, he ordered. If the humans think we'll be scared off by empty space, they're mistaken. His officers complied. The sensors swept the void, combing through every wavelength, every anomaly. Nothing. No cloaked ships. No hidden beacons. No mines. No drones. No gravitational disturbances. Then. The lights flickered. Admiral Kren turned sharply. What was that? The comms officer checked his instruments. Minor power fluctuation, sir. No cause detected. Kren didn't like that. The Dominion's warships were built to perfection. Malfunctions didn't just happen. Confirm all systems are stable. The officer's mandibles clicked nervously as he ran the diagnostics. Before he could answer, a second fluctuation rocked the ship. This time, it spread, affecting multiple vessels. A cold dread settled in Kren's gut. Something was here. Something unseen. And then. The screaming started. Sir, we're losing contact with multiple ships. Kren turned to the tactical display. Icons flickered, some vanishing entirely. No explosions. No distress calls. Just, gone. Are they cloaking? He demanded. No, sir. The comms officer hesitated, his voice shaky. They're just, disappearing. That word again. Disappearing. Kren's claws tightened around the command chair. Full retreat. Now. Sir, we haven't even. Now, damn you. The fleet tried to turn. Engines roared. Warp drive spun up. But it was too late. Space itself seemed to shudder. Kren's eyes widened as he saw it, something moving in the void. Not a ship. Not a fleet. But a presence. A ripple in the universe. Then the voices came. Not through the comms. Not through sound. But straight into their minds. You were warned. The Dominion fleet ceased to exist. Something that had given them a final warning. And if they ever dared cross that line again, there would be no mercy. Time passed. Years turned into decades. The Dominion, once the most feared power in the galaxy, had become stagnant. Their war fleets, once instruments of terror, now patrolled their own borders like caged beasts. Expansion had ceased. Conquests had ended. Fear had reshaped their empire. No one spoke of the humans anymore. Not in public. Not in private. Their name had become a phantom, whispered in hushed tones, feared but never acknowledged. But fear alone was not enough to keep an empire together. Dissension grew within the Dominion. Some believed they had surrendered too quickly, that their fear had blinded them. Others believed they had escaped annihilation by sheer luck. And then there were those who whispered something far worse. That humanity had never truly been the enemy. Deep within the Dominion's intelligence archives, an encrypted file had remained untouched for decades, the last transmission from Admiral Kren's fleet. It had been classified at the highest level, sealed under orders from the Emperor himself. But in times of weakness, secrets have a way of slipping through cracks. A scientist, young and ambitious, managed to access the file. She expected sensor data. Battle footage. Anything that could explain the disappearance. What she found instead was a message. Not from the humans. Not from any known language in the galaxy. It was something else. Something older. A voice, cold, alien, and incomprehensible, speaking in a chorus of overlapping echoes. The translation software barely made sense of it, but the meaning was clear enough. The boundary was tested. The line was crossed. The consequence was delivered. And then one last phrase, a warning. They are not yours to challenge. The scientist barely had time to comprehend what she had read before her access was revoked. Within hours, she was taken from her home. She was never seen again. The humans had never fought them. They had never built a superweapon. Never deployed some unimaginable technology. Never even known what had happened. Something else had intervened. Something older than the Dominion. Older than humanity. Something that watched. And humanity, knowingly or not, was under its protection. The Dominion had not been defeated. They had been warned away. And across the galaxy, in the darkest corners of space where no empire dared expand, something stirred once more. Because the boundary had been tested. And next time, the consequence might not be mercy. The news spread like wildfire across the empire. Billions of citizens, conditioned to believe in the Dominion's invincibility, whispered in fear. Military strategists and scientists reviewed the data over and over again, unable to explain what had happened. Admiral Zral was dead. So was his entire command. No escape pods, no distress signals. Just silence. The lone human ship had vanished after its final transmission, acknowledged. The Dominion had faced resistance before, but nothing like this. It wasn't just defeat. It was erasure. And the worst part? They had no idea how the humans had done it. Emperor Voron Chal stood in the vast throne chamber of the capital world, his massive form radiating unease. Around him, his advisors chattered in hushed voices, trying to salvage some explanation that made sense. "We need to retaliate immediately," one of the warlords snarled. "Send everything we have. We'll burn their worlds to cinders." "Fool," hissed a strategist. "You want to send another fleet when we don't even understand what happened to the first? They didn't fight our forces, they unmade them." The room fell silent. That was the true horror of it all. The Dominion's fleets were designed to fight wars of attrition. They could suffer millions of casualties and still crush their enemies through sheer numbers. But there were no casualties. Just nothing. The Emperor turned to his chief intelligence officer, a slender, calculating being with piercing golden eyes. "Do we have any idea what that ship was?" The officer hesitated before speaking. "Not entirely, my lord. But we intercepted something." A screen flickered to life, showing the last moments of the battle from a Dominion scout ship that had been too far from the main fleet to be affected. The human ship, a sleek, unassuming construct compared to the massive dreadnoughts of the Dominion, moved with eerie precision. Then, as it cut through the fleet, something changed. The footage slowed, zooming in for a fraction of a second. A strange distortion rippled around the ship. Space itself seemed to bend unnaturally. And then the Dominion ship simply ceased to exist. The officer's voice was tight. Whatever technology they used, it wasn't conventional. "We detected no energy spikes, no weapon signatures." It was as if they bypassed the laws of physics entirely. A shudder ran through the assembled warlords and strategists. The Emperor narrowed his eyes. "And where is the ship now?" A long pause. "It's gone, my lord. No trace." For the first time in Dominion history, fear crept into the Emperor's voice. "Find the humans. Find out what they are. And for the love of the stars, do not provoke them again." But it was already too late. Because while the Dominion debated their next move, the humans had already sent another message, a single transmission repeating across every Dominion channel. Just 2 words. "Still watching." The Emperor awaited news of his fleet's inevitable victory. A display screen tracked the 1,000 ships. Then, in the blink of an eye, every single icon vanished. Gasps filled the chamber. Warlords, strategists, and scientists all stared in horror. "No." One of them whispered. The Emperor rose slowly, his massive form trembling. "Tell me this is a mistake." But there was no mistake. The only thing that remained on the screen was a new transmission, a final message from the void. 2 words. Final warning. Silence fell over the Dominion. For the first time in its history, they had encountered something stronger than themselves. And they were utterly powerless. Underscore 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 underscore. Panic spread like wildfire through the Dominion's upper ranks. The fleet was gone, vanished. No wreckage, no survivors, no escape pods. 1,000 warships, the pride of the Empire, had been erased from existence. And now, a message hung over their heads like an executioner's blade. Final warning. Emperor Voron Chao's massive form trembled as he read the words. His warlords and strategists were deathly silent, their arrogance shattered. "What do we do?" one of the ministers finally choked. For the first time in 1,000 years, no one had an answer. They had ruled the galaxy through sheer strength. Their fleets were invincible. Their empire untouchable. And yet, humanity, or whatever force lurked behind them, had rewritten the rules. The Dominion was no longer the apex predator. It was prey. Underscore 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 underscore. 3 days later, the Emperor did something no Dominion ruler had ever done. He sent a message of surrender. Not a declaration of war. Not a demand for negotiation. Just 4 words, broadcast into the void. "We do not resist." They waited. Hours passed. Then days. Every passing moment stretched their paranoia to its breaking point. Had they been too late? Would the next sign from humanity be another erasure? Then, finally, a response. Not through a transmission. Not through comms. But across every Dominion star system, all at once. Every screen. Every console. Every display, hijacked. The same message appeared, as if written directly into the fabric of reality itself. Acknowledged. That was it. No demands. No punishment. Just that single, chilling word. And with it, the Dominion knew. Humanity had chosen mercy. Or perhaps, they simply no longer considered the Dominion worth their attention. The Dominion never recovered. They never sent another fleet beyond their borders. Never expanded again. Their once proud empire shrank into itself, crippled by fear. To the outside galaxy, the Dominion was still powerful. Still dominant. But those within knew the truth. They were no longer conquerors. They were survivors. And every night, every Dominion citizen, every warlord, every emperor that followed, would stare into the dark void of space, knowing that something watched them. Something that had erased 50,000 ships without a trace.